Have you ever been told, by the very people who promised to protect you, that you don't deserve a future, that everything you believed was yours, your family, your inheritance, your place in the world has been taken away without a single explanation? That happened to me. My own family erased me from their lives and their legacy, like I was never even there. No warning, no reason, just gone. But instead of breaking, I chose to fight. From nothing, I built a business worth $10 million with my own hands and grit. And just when I thought I was free, dark secrets and shocking betrayals surfaced, things I never saw coming. This isn't just a story about money or family drama. It's about rising from ashes when those who should have held you up push you down instead. If you're fighting battles like this right now, comment 1, so I know I'm not alone. Like this video if you've ever felt invisible in your own home. And subscribe if you believe even forgotten stories deserve to be heard. My name is Delilah. For as long as I can remember, I believed my family was my anchor, a place of safety, love, and unspoken promises. My parents weren't perfect, but their dreams were real, and I was supposed to be the heir to everything they had built, not just the wealth, but the pride, the legacy, the unbreakable bond. As their only child, I grew up wrapped in their hopes. Our home was a place filled with laughter, late-night talks about the future, and little traditions that made us feel invincible. My mother's gentle smile and my father's quiet strength were constants I trusted. But adulthood brought shadows I never saw coming. At first, it was just subtle things, hushed conversations that stopped when I entered the room, sidelong glances heavy with unspoken words. My mother, once warm and open, became guarded. My father, once my greatest supporter, grew distant and distracted. Then there was Christine. She appeared out of nowhere, a radiant presence with an unsettling intensity. At family dinners, her laugh echoed too loud, her eyes lingering too long. I caught her watching me once, a smile too sharp to be friendly. Behind closed doors, secrets began to pile up like storm clouds. I overheard my mother's whispered phone calls, voices laden with worry and urgency. My father's late nights became more frequent, his eyes tired and conflicted. Invitations to family meetings stopped coming. My role, once clear and cherished, was suddenly erased. One afternoon, my mother told me softly but firmly, "Delilah, there are truths you're not ready to face. Some doors are meant to stay closed." Her words cut deeper than any betrayal. It was as if I was being told, "Step back. This isn't your place anymore." The silence that followed was deafening. I found letters addressed to me, unopened and tucked away, documents with my name scratched out, contracts signed without my consent. My family, the people I trusted most, were quietly rewriting my story, removing me piece by piece. And yet, no one offered a reason. I was becoming a ghost in my own life, watching from the shadows as the world I knew slipped away. That was the first crack in the foundation, the beginning of a fracture that would force me to question everything I thought I understood about love, loyalty, and family. The days after that night blurred into a mix of heartbreak and disbelief. At first, I tried desperately to convince myself it was all some terrible misunderstanding, a cruel twist of fate I could fix with just one honest conversation. But my parents' silence was louder than any words could be. One evening, unable to sleep, I found myself pacing the hallways of our old house, each creak beneath my feet echoing the emptiness growing inside me. My heart pounded when I accidentally overheard my mother's whispered phone conversation through a thin wall. Her voice cracked, fragile and fearful, as she spoke of things I wasn't meant to hear. Replace her. Cut all ties. The final decision has been made. My father's tone was chillingly different, cold, resigned, detached. The man who once held me close and promised protection was now discussing my removal as if I were a mistake to be erased. The shock hit me like a thunderclap. This wasn't a fleeting argument. This was a deliberate plan to wipe me out of their lives. The next morning, I confronted them, voice trembling but desperate for answers. "Why am I being erased from my own family?" I asked. My mother's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing, her silence screaming volumes. My father looked away, refusing even to meet my gaze. It was the kind of cold I'd never known before, a final goodbye without words. Then came the legal blow, a letter from their lawyer, cold and impersonal, informing me I had been formally disinherited. No explanation, no negotiation, just a brutal statement that everything I thought was mine had been transferred to Christine. That moment, the air seemed to freeze. I sat in stunned silence, the walls closing in around me. My family, the people who once shaped my world, had cast me out. But beneath the crushing pain, a strange fire began to burn, a mix of rage, disbelief, and clarity. This wasn't simply about money or possessions. It was about my identity, my voice, my place in this world, and I wasn't about to let it be stolen. Christine was no longer just a shadow at the edges of my life. She was actively rewriting my story. Photos I once cherished were gone, messages erased. Even my childhood memories seemed to be slipping through my fingers like sand. Late at night, I would stand before the mirror, searching for the girl I used to be. But all I saw was a stranger, a girl abandoned, erased, left to pick up the pieces alone. Yet in that reflection, amidst the pain, a fierce resolve took root. If my family wouldn't fight for me, I would fight for myself. If they turned their backs, I'd build my own future stronger, brighter, and untouchable. Still, the whisper of doubt lingered. Could I really do this alone? Was I strong enough to rise from such a deep betrayal? The answers weren't clear, but one thing was certain: I refused to vanish. That night, beneath the quiet hum of the city outside, I began to sketch out a plan. I wasn't just going to survive. I was going to reclaim my life, on my terms. The path ahead was uncertain, dark, and terrifying, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope, a promise that my story wasn't over. The letter from the lawyer was merciless, a final, cold declaration that my place in the family was gone. But nothing could have prepared me for the moment I saw Christine face to face. It was at a family gathering where I was deliberately not invited, but I showed up anyway because I refused to disappear without a fight. The room buzzed with polite smiles and whispered conversations, but when our eyes locked, the noise faded into silence. It was as if the entire world had shrunk to that one breathless moment between us. Christine stood there, poised and perfect, with a smile so sweet it tasted bitter. "Delilah," she said, voice honeyed but edged with poison, "I'm sure this is very painful for you, but your parents made a choice, a final one. You're no longer part of their plans." Her words sliced through me like a blade. She didn't deny it. She reveled in it. The woman who had been a stranger at the edges of my life was now the architect of my erasure. She had replaced me. I felt my knees go weak, but forced myself to stand tall. "How could you?" I whispered, voice cracking with rage and heartbreak. "How can you stand there, stealing my life, my family, and smile like this?" Her laugh was chilling, soft, cold, cruel. "Stealing? I didn't steal anything. You were discarded. You were a liability your parents could no longer afford." It was a calculated act of cruelty, deliberate and cold as ice. The people who once vowed to protect me had sold me out without a second thought. In that moment, I was flooded with a storm of emotions: betrayal, disbelief, anger, and an overwhelming grief that almost crushed me. But beneath it all, a fierce fire ignited inside a promise I made to myself, burning brighter than the hurt. I refused to be the victim of their cruelty. I would fight. I would rise. I would build my own empire, not just to reclaim what was stolen, but to become so powerful that no one could ever erase me again. I knew the path ahead would be brutal and lonely. I was up against a family who thought they could bury me alive, but I was done being invisible. That night, staring into the cracked mirror of my childhood room, I saw not the broken girl they tried to erase, but a woman forged in fire ready to reclaim everything I was told I'd lost. The battle for my life, my identity, my future, had only just begun. The morning after that brutal confrontation, I woke to a silence heavier than any words. My family had officially cast me out not just from their wealth, but from their lives. And yet, as the weight of that rejection pressed down, something inside me cracked open in a way I never expected. I was alone, completely, utterly alone. The future I dreamed of since childhood, the legacy my parents promised me, was gone. Swallowed by a decision made behind closed doors, sealed with signatures I never saw. I held the cold letter in my hands, my fingers trembling as I tried to make sense of a world that suddenly made no sense at all. But in that crushing loneliness, amid the shadows of betrayal, a strange clarity emerged. I realized I didn't need their approval, their inheritance, or their love to define me. I was still here, still breathing, still fighting. I made a promise to the shattered girl staring back at me in the cracked mirror. I would rise, not just to survive, but to reclaim everything they tried to take away. I started small, with nothing but determination and the fragments of my old dreams. Nights bled into dawn as I pored over books, taught myself skills, reached out to strangers who became mentors. Every rejection, every failure, cut deep, but I swallowed the pain and learned to use it as fuel. One night, while sorting through old family photos, I found a picture of us all smiling before the cracks, before the lies. I held it close and cried like I never had before. It wasn't just grief, it was mourning the loss of what could have been. And yet, in that grief was fire. A fire that pushed me to keep moving, to build something real, something that belonged to me alone. Months turned into years. My small startup grew. Doors that were once closed slowly opened. Investors took chances. My name began to echo in places I never imagined. But just as hope blossomed, I received a message that shook me to my core. The empire I was born into was crumbling. Without the vision and heart it once had, it was falling apart. And now, the very people who cast me away were watching their world collapse. I sat alone that night, staring at the skyline, knowing that the battle was far from over. This was my chance, just to survive, but to reclaim my place in a way no one could deny. Because sometimes, losing everything is the hardest lesson, but it's also the beginning of the strongest rise. Delilah's story ignited a wildfire on Reddit, stirring fierce debates and a flood of emotions across the platform. One passionate supporter wrote, "Cut out by your own blood and still standing tall? That's pure resilience. Delilah didn't just survive, she thrived. Anyone who doubts her is blind to true strength." This comment quickly racked up thousands of upvotes, becoming a rallying cry for those inspired by her courage. But the critics weren't silent. A sharp-tongued commenter blasted, "Sounds like Delilah's playing the victim card hard. Families don't disinherit for no reason. Maybe she burned bridges we don't know about. Not every daughter deserves a crown." This sparked a heated back and forth, with others accusing this user of victim blaming. Injecting humor, another user joked, "They cut her out, but she bounced back like surprise. I'm the CEO now. Family drama just got a billionaire plot twist." The comment brought laughter and thousands of awards, lightening the heavy atmosphere. Then there was the brutally honest Bokfote comment. If Delilah was really innocent, why are there whispers about her reckless choices and trust issues? No one's perfect. Even victims have flaws. This sparked fierce debates about complexity and forgiveness in family conflicts. Philosophers of the thread added, "This is the ultimate lesson. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, and true family is who stands by you when the world turns its back. The community polarized between fierce defenders, skeptical critics, and those fascinated by the raw, messy truth of human relationships. The question hung heavy. If you were in Delilah's shoes, would you fight to reclaim your birthright, or forge a new legacy beyond blood? My story isn't just about inheritance or betrayal. It's a journey of finding myself when the people closest to me turned away. It's a testament to resilience, rising from the ashes, when everything I loved was taken from me. But I keep asking myself, if you were in my shoes, would you fight to reclaim what's yours? Or would you choose to build a new future far from the shadows of your past? Can blood ties ever truly be broken? Or do they leave marks on our hearts that never fade? And when those you trusted most betray you, how do you find the strength to stand tall again? I want to hear your story, your thoughts, your truth. If my journey touched you, drop a 1 in the comments. Let's remind each other that no one is invisible or forgotten. Like this video if you believe every story, no matter how painful, deserves to be heard. Share this with someone who needs to know they are not alone. And please subscribe so we can walk this path of healing, strength, and self-discovery together. Thank you for being here. For listening, your support means everything. And together, we turn pain into power.